Another blessing. Carlin and Evan Bates announced baby number 3's arrival. It was still early in the morning when soft sunlight touched the Bates home in Tennessee. The house, usually filled with the laughter of siblings and the sound of music, was unusually still. Carlin Bates opened her eyes slowly. Her heartbeat was faster than usual, and a quiet pain spread across her body. She had felt this before, but this time it was stronger. Her hands rested gently on her belly. The moment she had been waiting for had finally arrived. She whispered softly, almost in disbelief, "Evan, wake up. It's time." Evan opened his eyes half asleep, but the second he saw Carlin's face, pale, trembling yet glowing, he froze. "Time? You mean now?" Carlin nodded, tears already welling up. He jumped out of bed, fumbling for his phone, car keys, the hospital bag, all while trying to keep his shaking hands steady. His voice trembled, not from fear but from love. Okay, just breathe, Carlin. You're going to be okay." She smiled faintly, whispering, "You're the one who needs to breathe." Outside, the sky began to shift. Dark clouds formed over the Tennessee hills. The world felt like it was holding its breath. Downstairs, Kelly Jo was already awake. A mother's heart always knows. She turned when she saw Evan rush in, panic written across his face. "Mom, it's happening," Evan said, his voice cracking. Within seconds, the Bates house was alive again. Footsteps running, prayers whispered, tears and laughter mixing in the air. Gil came down, calm but concerned, his hand resting on Evan's shoulder. "Son, take her safe. God's already ahead of you." Kelly Jo held Carlin close, whispering in her ear, "You've got this, sweetheart. The Lord brought you here for this moment." Carlin's eyes filled with tears. There was fear, yes, but beneath it something stronger. Faith. The family gathered at the doorway as Evan helped her into the car. Rain began to fall softly, a slow rhythmic tapping, as if the heavens themselves were praying with them. Evan's hands tightened around the steering wheel. His voice, barely a whisper, broke the silence inside the car. "Please God, just keep her safe this time." The road stretched ahead, long, wet, and uncertain. Inside the car, Carlin clutched Evan's hand tightly. Between waves of pain, she looked at him and smiled. "Do you remember the first time we held Layla?" she asked softly. "You were crying harder than she was." Evan laughed weakly, his eyes glistening. "And I'll cry again when I see this one." The rain grew heavier. Each drop against the windshield echoed the pounding of Evan's heart. At that moment, the Bates family stood on the porch, watching the car disappear into the mist. They held hands and bowed their heads. A family built on faith, once again surrendering to the unknown. Inside that moving car, two hearts beat in rhythm. One for love, one for life, and one for the miracle waiting to be born. The world outside looked gray, but inside that car, hope was still alive. The car raced through the rain-soaked Tennessee roads. Evan's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, his eyes darting between the road and Carlin, who was now breathing heavily, every contraction sharper than the last. Inside, the sound of raindrops hitting the windshield blended with her soft groans of pain. Evan reached for her hand. "We're almost there, baby. Just a few more minutes." Carlin nodded, whispering, "It's okay. I can do this. God's got us." But deep inside, both of them remembered what had happened last time, when Carlin's health had suddenly collapsed, and she had spent weeks fighting to recover. That memory still haunted them. The doors burst open. Nurses rushed toward them as Evan guided Carlin in a wheelchair, drenched in rain, his voice trembling as he tried to explain. "She's due, she's having contractions, but something's not right. Please help her." The nurses nodded quickly, wheeling Carlin into the maternity ward. Evan tried to follow, but a nurse gently stopped him. "Sir, please wait outside for a moment. We'll update you soon." He froze, breathless. Watching her disappear behind the white hospital doors felt like watching a part of his soul being taken away. Evan sank onto a chair in the hallway, head in his hands. His phone buzzed. It was Kelly Jo. "Evan? Are you there? Is she okay?" He hesitated. His voice cracked. "She's inside, Mom. They're checking her, but something feels wrong. I can't lose her. Not again." On the other side of the phone, Kelly Jo whispered, holding back tears. "You won't, sweetheart. God's brought her through before. He'll do it again." Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Monitors beeped rapidly. Nurses exchanged quiet glances. The doctor frowned slightly. Her blood pressure's unstable. Heart rate fluctuating. We need to move quickly. Carlin gripped the edge of the bed, sweat glistening on her forehead. Her voice was faint but steady. Is the baby okay? The doctor gave a small reassuring nod. We're doing everything we can. Just keep breathing. Carlin closed her eyes, whispering softly, Lord, I trust you. Whatever happens, I trust you. Her voice trembled as she remembered Layla's tiny hands, Evan's smile, and all the moments that made their little family so beautiful. Evan stood outside, pacing. The sound of machines and hurried footsteps came faintly from behind the doors. A nurse passed by and Evan stopped her, desperation in his eyes. Please, just tell me she's okay. The nurse paused for a moment. We're doing everything we can. She's strong. Keep praying. Evan nodded, tears rolling down his face. He looked up, whispering under his breath, God, I can't do this without her. Please don't take her from me. He sat down again, holding Carlin's Bible close to his chest, the same one she read every night before bed. It smelled faintly of her perfume and home. He opened it and saw a small handwritten note inside, written by Carlin months ago. No matter what happens, remember, he's always good. That broke him. Evan pressed the note to his forehead and wept silently. The monitors beeped louder. Doctors and nurses moved quickly, voices overlapping. Her pressure's dropping. We need to move her now. Carlin's breathing grew shallow. Her eyes fluttered. One nurse leaned in and said softly, Stay with us, Carlin. Stay with us. Through the pain she managed to whisper, Save my baby, please. Promise me you'll save my baby first. The doctor looked at her, speechless. Evan felt his whole body go cold as he saw the lights above the door change to red. He wasn't allowed in. He pressed his palm against the door window, trying to see her, but all he saw were flashes of white coats and fast-moving hands. Everything felt like slow motion. The rain outside grew louder, pounding against the glass windows like the heartbeat of heaven itself. Evan slid down to the floor, tears blurring his vision. He whispered again and again, Please God, just give me one more miracle. Carlin's world was fading in and out. Beeping voices, pain, then silence. She felt weightless. In her mind she saw a light warm and golden, and a faint sound of a baby's heartbeat. And then through the chaos one sound broke through everything. A cry. A baby's first cry. Loud, pure, alive. The doors finally opened. A nurse stepped out, her eyes red, but she was smiling. Evan stood up instantly. Is she okay? The baby. The nurse took a deep breath, nodding slowly. Your baby is safe. A little girl. Strong and beautiful. Evan's legs almost gave out. He covered his face with his hands, sobbing in relief. But before he could ask about Carlin, the nurse added quietly, She's still unconscious, but she's fighting. He looked through the glass window at the tiny newborn wrapped in a soft blanket. His heart broke and healed at the same time. He placed his hand on the glass and whispered, Welcome to the world, my miracle. Tears fell freely down his face as the baby's cry echoed softly through the hallway. A cry that carried both life and hope. The storm outside began to ease. The rain slowed to a gentle drizzle. Somewhere in heaven perhaps an angel smiled. The world outside the hospital was silent now. The storm had passed, leaving behind the smell of wet earth and a quiet that felt almost sacred. Inside, the hallway lights flickered softly. Evan sat in the waiting chair, motionless, his hands still trembling, his eyes fixed on the door that separated him from the love of his life. Through the glass window he could see their newborn, tiny, wrapped in a white blanket, her little chest rising and falling gently. Nurses moved quietly around her, checking monitors, whispering words of relief. But for Evan the world had narrowed to two questions. Is Carlin breathing? Is she coming back? Carlin lay still. Her skin pale, her breathing faint, her heartbeat soft but steady. Machines surrounded her, blinking lights reflecting off the tears on her cheeks. The doctor adjusted the 4-line, sighed softly and said, She's stable for now, but her body's weak. We'll need to keep her under observation. He looked at the nurse beside him. Inform her husband. Tell him she made it through the critical stage. Evan's head snapped up as the nurse approached. His voice was barely a whisper. Afraid to ask, afraid to hope. Please tell me she's okay. The nurse smiled gently, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. She's alive. Weak but stable. She made it through. Evan's eyes filled instantly. He pressed his hands over his mouth, trying not to sob aloud. Tears streamed down his face as he whispered, thank you, God." He walked slowly toward the nursery window again, looking at his daughter. Her tiny fingers twitched, as if waving hello to a world she didn't yet understand. He leaned close to the glass and whispered, "You're our little miracle. And your mama's gonna wake up and hold you soon." The night grew darker, the hospital quieter. Evan sat beside Carlin's bed, her hand in his. Her fingers felt cold, fragile, yet somehow alive. He brushed a strand of hair from her face and whispered, "You did it, Carlin. She's beautiful, just like you." His voice cracked as he continued, "I was so scared. I thought I was gonna lose you." He took a deep breath, his voice trembling. "You've always been my strength. The way you love, the way you fight. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." Evan closed his eyes, resting his forehead on her hand. Silence filled the room, the kind that only comes when love is holding its breath. The clock ticks slowly, showing time moving from night to early morning. The nurse checks on Carlin, adjusting her for. Evan sits in the same chair, head bowed, half asleep from exhaustion. The baby sleeps peacefully in the nursery, her soft cry echoing faintly through the halls. A ray of golden light slowly creeps through the hospital window. The first light of dawn touches Carlin's face. Her eyelids flutter. Her fingers move slightly. Evan, half asleep, feels the motion and lifts his head instantly. "Carlin? Carlin?" Her lips part slightly. Her voice is weak, almost like a whisper in the wind. "Evan." He gasps, leaning closer, tears already forming. Hey, I'm here. You're safe. You made it." Carlin looks confused for a moment. Her eyes scan the room, then land on his tear-streaked face. "The baby?" Evan smiles through his tears. "She's perfect. She's here. She's safe." Carlin's lips tremble as her eyes fill with tears. Can I see her?" Evan nods quickly, wiping his face. He stands up and rushes out. The nurse smiles softly as Evan walks in. He looks at the tiny baby in her crib, sleeping peacefully. "She's ready to meet her mama," the nurse says gently, handing the baby to him. Evan holds her close, whispering, "Let's go see mommy, little one." Carlin's eyes are open now, glistening with emotion as Evan walks in holding their newborn. Her breath catches the moment she sees them together. Father and daughter, both safe, both home. Evan carefully places the baby into her arms. Carlin gasps softly, tears falling instantly. "Oh my goodness, she's so tiny." Evan smiles, sitting beside her. "She's tiny, but she's mighty, just like her mom." Carlin looks down at her daughter, then back at Evan. "What did you name her?" Evan's eyes soften. "I waited for you. I wanted us to choose together." Carlin stares at the baby for a long moment, her voice breaking. "Then let's call her Faith Hope Stewart." Evan repeats the name softly, almost in awe. "Faith Hope." He laughs quietly through tears. "That's perfect." They both hold her close. The baby's tiny hand wraps around Carlin's finger. Fragile but full of life. Carlin whispers, voice trembling, "God gave us faith and hope, just when we thought we'd lost everything." Evan presses his forehead to hers. He always does. The Bates family slowly enters the room, Kelly, Joe, Gil, and a few siblings. When they see Carlin awake, holding her baby, every face lights up with tears and smiles. Kelly Joe leans down, kissing Carlin's forehead. "You scared us, sweetheart." Carlin smiles weakly. "I scared myself too." Everyone laughs softly through tears. Gil stands behind them, eyes glistening, whispering a prayer of thanks. The baby lets out a small cry, and the room falls silent. Every face turns toward her, the newest Bates miracle. The camera pans out slowly. Carlin holding the baby close, Evan's arm around her, sunlight spilling across the hospital bed. Carlin whispers softly to her newborn, "Welcome to the world, my little Faith. You're proof that love still wins." The scene fades as soft music plays, a piano melody full of warmth and grace. Days passed slowly, wrapped in peace and healing. The rain had long stopped, and the Tennessee hills looked greener than ever, like even the earth was celebrating a miracle. Inside the hospital, Carlin was finally getting stronger. Her laughter had returned, soft but genuine. Evan rarely left her side. He was there for every diaper change, every midnight feeding, every soft whisper between new parents who had walked through fire and survived. On the 7th morning, the doctor entered with a gentle smile. "Well, Mrs. Stewart, I think it's time for you to go home." Carlin's eyes widened, tears instantly forming. "Home?" Evan grinned, brushing her hair lovingly. "You heard him, sweetheart. It's time." Carlin looked down at her sleeping baby, wrapped in a pale pink blanket. "Let's take our Faith home." The sun shone brightly, warm and golden. Evan pushed the wheelchair slowly, Carlin cradling Faith in her arms. The Bates family stood waiting near the car. A sea of smiles, laughter, and tears. Kelly Jo rushed forward first, unable to hold back. "Oh my goodness, she's perfect." She leaned down, gently touching the baby's cheek. Gil placed a hand over his heart, his voice trembling. Another blessing from above. The younger Bates siblings surrounded them, their excitement uncontainable. Little hands reached out carefully, their eyes wide with wonder. "She's so small. She looks like Carlin." "No, she looks like Evan." Everyone laughed. For a moment it felt like the whole world had stopped, just to celebrate one tiny heartbeat. When Carlin stepped through the front door, she froze. The house had been decorated beautifully, balloons, flowers, and a banner that read, "Sparkles, welcome home, Faith, hope." Sparkles. Tears instantly filled her eyes. "You guys, you didn't have to." Kelly Jo smiled softly. "We wanted to. This family's been through enough storms. It's time for some sunshine." Evan helped Carlin to the couch, where she slowly sat down, still holding Faith. The room filled with the sound of laughter, small talk, and the gentle cry of a newborn. A sound that now felt like music. Carlin looked around at her family, her brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, all gathered in one room. So many memories, so much love. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "This is what grace looks like." Kelly Jo rocking Faith gently in her arms, humming a lullaby. Gil praying quietly by the fireplace, thanking God for mercy. Carlin smiling as her younger sisters helped fold baby clothes. Evan outside hanging tiny pink baby clothes on the porch line. Sunlight hitting his face as he smiles to himself. The world seemed to breathe again. There was warmth in every corner of the house, the kind that only family can create. Later that night, as the house quieted, Carlin sat by the window, rocking Faith to sleep. The baby's soft breathing filled the air. Evan walked up behind her, wrapping his arms gently around her shoulders. They both watched the sky, painted in hues of purple and gold as the sun disappeared. "You know," Evan whispered, "when I thought I was going to lose you, I made a promise to God." Carlin turned her head slightly curious. "What did you promise?" Evan smiled faintly. "That if he brought you back, I'd never take a single day for granted again." Carlin's eyes shimmered. She leaned her head against his chest. "Then we'll both keep that promise. Every single day." Faith stirred softly in her arms, her tiny hand brushing against Carlin's chest, right over her heart. Carlin smiled, whispering to her baby, "You saved me too, you know." The camera pans across the house. Lights glow softly through the windows. Inside, laughter and love fill every room. From the outside, the home looks peaceful, like a small piece of heaven resting quietly on earth. Carlin's voice fades in gentle, heartfelt narration. Life isn't always perfect. Sometimes it's painful, sometimes it's frightening. But when we choose love over fear and faith over doubt, miracles happen. The camera moves slowly toward the nursery window, where the baby sleeps peacefully. A soft lullaby plays in the background. We named her Faith Hope, not just because we needed those things, but because she became them. The house was quiet. The only sound was the soft rhythm of rain tapping against the window, the same sound that had filled the night Faith was born. Carlin sat in the nursery, wrapped in a warm blanket, rocking her baby slowly. The tiny girl slept peacefully, her chest rising and falling, her lips forming the faintest smile. Carlin's eyes glistened in the dim light. She looked around the room, at the pastel walls, the framed photos of her and Evan, and a verse hanging above the crib. For I know the plans I have for you. Jeremiah 29 verse 11. Her fingers brushed the edge of the frame as her voice broke softly. I didn't think I'd live to see this day. Machines beeped steadily. Carlin lay on the hospital bed, pale and exhausted. Evan held her hand tightly, fear written all over his face. The doctor's voice was calm but firm. Her heart rate is unstable. We're doing everything we can. Evan had prayed then, louder than he ever had before. He remembered whispering through tears, "Please God, don't take her away." Carlin closed her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks. I almost didn't make it here, but God wasn't done with me yet. Evan entered quietly, his hair still damp from the rain. He stood at the door watching her, a small smile forming on his face. You're up again, he asked softly. She nodded, smiling faintly through tears. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I just look at her. Evan walked over and sat beside her, his arm wrapping around her shoulders. They both stared at Faith, that tiny miracle who had turned their world upside down. You know, Evan whispered. Before Faith came, I didn't know what strength really meant. But watching you fight, seeing you smile even when you were in pain, I'll never forget that. Carlin leaned against him, her voice trembling. It wasn't just me, Evan. You were my strength too. You never left, not for a second. He kissed the top of her head. How could I? You're my heart. The Bates family visiting every weekend, filling the house with laughter and warmth. Carlin slowly regaining her health, taking careful steps, holding Faith's hand while Evan stands close behind her. Evan strumming his guitar softly in the living room as Carlin hums a lullaby to Faith. The couple walking hand in hand down the porch steps, Faith wrapped between them, bathed in golden sunset. Each day was simple, but in those small moments they found something powerful: peace. Carlin sat by the window again, journal in hand. She began to write. There was a time I thought my story was over. But maybe God was just turning the page. She looked at the photo on her nightstand, her and Evan smiling with Faith between them. This little girl saved us in ways she'll never understand. Evan stirred in bed, half asleep. What are you writing? Carlin smiled softly. A letter for her. For when she's old enough to know what love really means. Evan reached out his hand sleepily. Come here, writer. She laughed quietly and set the journal down, slipping under the covers beside him. He wrapped his arms around her. Promise me, he whispered. No matter what storms come next, we'll face them together. She nodded against his chest. Always. Sunlight broke through the clouds. The rain had finally stopped for good. Carlin stood on the porch, holding Faith close to her chest as the morning breeze brushed her hair. The world looked brand new. From behind her, Evan joined her, wrapping his arms around both of them. She's growing fast, he said, smiling. Too fast, Carlin replied softly. But every day she grows, I'm reminded how fragile and how beautiful life really is. They stood there for a while. No words, just quiet gratitude. There are moments that break us, and moments that build us again. Sometimes they're the same moment. I used to think strength meant never falling apart. But now I know strength is trusting that love will pick you back up. The camera pans upward, the Bates home glowing in the soft morning sun. Birds take flight in the sky, and Carlin's laughter echoes faintly. The morning sun streamed gently through the curtains. Carlin sat in the rocking chair, rocking Faith in her arms, her eyes heavy with fatigue but soft with love. The baby stirred, tiny hands clutching Carlin's fingers. Carlin whispered softly, Good morning, my little miracle. Evan entered quietly, holding 2 cups of coffee. His eyes softened as he watched them. Sleep well? He asked, setting the mugs on the table. Carlin shook her head with a tired smile. A little. But she needed me more than I needed sleep. Evan knelt beside the chair, brushing a strand of hair from her face. And you gave her all you had, that's all that matters. The house was alive again, filled with laughter and soft chatter. Kelly Jo had prepared breakfast, and a few of the siblings were visiting, eager to see the new baby. Carlin carried Faith into the kitchen, cradling her gently. She's a little bundle of energy even in her sleep, Carlin laughed. Evan helped her settle into a chair. "We'll figure this out. One day at a time," he whispered. Despite the joy, a quiet tension lingered. Carlin's body still ached from the birth, her energy fleeting. But she refused to let fear overshadow the miracle in her arms. Carlin lay down with Faith resting on her chest. She closed her eyes and let the warmth of the baby's body calm her racing thoughts. Her mind wandered to the hospital, to the moments when she had feared losing everything. "I almost gave up," she whispered. "But now here you are, safe and alive." Evan entered silently, kneeling beside the bed. He looked at her with deep emotion. "You were so brave, Carlin. You fought for her, for us." Carlin smiled, tears threatening to spill. "We fought together." He leaned down, placing a gentle kiss on her forehead. "And together we'll make sure she always knows love." Evan learning how to soothe Faith during late-night cries, his hands careful, precise, and gentle. Carlin slowly taking small walks with Faith in the stroller, Evan following closely, making sure she doesn't overexert herself. The Bates siblings helping, laughing, and creating a joyful chaos that filled the home. Moments of quiet prayer before bedtime, thanking God for healing, love, and new beginnings. Each day brought challenges, sleepless nights, small illnesses, and moments of doubt, but each also brought triumphs, smiles, and laughter. Carlin and Evan sat side by side on the couch, Faith nestled between them. The room was quiet except for the soft lullaby playing from a small music box. Carlin whispered softly, "Do you ever think about how fragile life really is?" Evan nodded, squeezing her hand. "Every day. But it's also fragile in the most beautiful way. Because it makes moments like this priceless." Carlin smiled, tears glistening. "I never realized how much I could love. Until now." Evan brushed a kiss across her temple. "And I never realized how much Faith could move mountains. Until I watched you fight for her." Faith stirred, tiny fingers curling around Evan's hand. "She's already teaching us," Carlin whispered, laughing softly. The family gathered for a small celebration, balloons, soft music, and the laughter of siblings filling the air. Carlin carried Faith outside, letting her feel the warmth of the sun on her face for the first time. Evan stood behind her, holding her close. "She's going to grow up knowing just how loved she is," he said. Carlin smiled, closing her eyes. "And she'll know how miracles really do happen. If you hold on to hope." The camera pans upward, capturing the family standing together in a circle, faith, love, and joy radiating in every face. The house finally quieted, the chaos of the day fading. Carlin sat by the window, Faith asleep in her arms. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "Life isn't easy, but it's worth every tear, every worry, every sleepless night. Because this." She looked down at Faith, smiling through tears. "This is everything." Evan entered, wrapping his arms around her shoulders. "We made it," he whispered. Carlin rested her head against his chest. "Yes, together we made it." The camera slowly zooms out, showing the house glowing warmly under the stars. A sense of peace, hope, and love fills the air, the quiet magic of family, faith, and new beginnings. The morning sun broke through the clouds, spilling golden light across the yard. Birds chirped softly, their melodies mingling with the gentle rustling of leaves in the breeze. Carlin stepped outside, cradling Faith in her arms, the baby bundled snugly in a soft pastel blanket. Evan followed closely behind, holding a small basket of essentials, diapers, bottles, blankets, the nervous excitement clear on his face. "Are you ready?" Evan whispered, kneeling slightly so Carlin could look at him. Carlin smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "Ready? I've never been more ready in my life." The rest of the Bates family gathered in the garden, excited to see Faith outside for the first time. Kelly Jo held the porch door, smiling softly, while Gil and the siblings arranged a small picnic on the lawn. "Oh my goodness, she's going to love the sun," Kelly Jo exclaimed, her eyes shining. Carlin lowered Faith into her arms gently, letting the little girl stretch and yawn. "Look, baby. This is the world you've been waiting for," Carlin whispered softly. Faith's tiny hands reached up, brushing Carlin's chin. She cooed quietly, a small sound that seemed to echo with joy. Evan wrapped an arm around Carlin, looking at her and the baby with awe. "We've waited so long for this day," he said softly. "And look at her, she's perfect." The family began to settle for a simple picnic. Laughter filled the air. A sound so warm and alive that it felt almost sacred. Carlin looked around at the family. Siblings laughing, nieces and nephews running across the grass, Kelly Jo and Gil exchanging soft smiles, and felt a wave of gratitude so intense it made her chest ache. "I can't believe how blessed we are," she whispered to Evan. "I know," Evan replied, kissing her temple. "We faced storms, Carlin, but here we are. Together." Faith stirred in Carlin's arms, eyes fluttering open as if sensing the happiness around her. "She's awake." Carlin laughed softly, brushing her hair back. "Look at those eyes, she's going to see everything we've fought for." Evan's voice was gentle, filled with awe. "She already sees it, Carlin. She already does." Carlin walking slowly with Faith in a stroller, Evan jogging beside her, guiding her hand whenever she stumbles. The younger Bates siblings playing tag, giggling, chasing each other around the yard, with Faith watching from Carlin's arms. Kelly Jo snapping pictures and quietly whispering prayers of thanks, tears shining in her eyes. Gil lifting Faith gently for the first time outside, Evan holding his hand steady, sunlight filtering through the trees, casting golden beams on the laughing family, creating a perfect moment of serenity and joy. Carlin sat on the porch steps, rocking Faith as Evan knelt beside her, gently holding her tiny fingers. "Do you remember the first night we brought her home?" Evan asked softly. Carlin nodded, eyes glistening. "How could I forget? I was so scared, but then she was there. Safe. Alive. And she's still our miracle," Evan whispered. "Every day with her is proof that love and faith are stronger than fear." Carlin smiled, leaning against Evan. "I can't imagine life without her, without this family, without you." Faith let out a soft coo, her tiny hand touching Carlin's cheek. "She knows," Carlin whispered softly. "She knows she's loved, more than anything in this world." The sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange, pink, and gold. The family gathered one last time, sitting in a circle, holding hands and looking at Faith sleeping peacefully in Carlin's arms. Kelly Jo whispered softly, "She's going to grow up knowing what it means to be surrounded by love." Gil added quietly, "And she'll always remember how miracles can happen, even when you least expect them." Carlin and Evan exchanged a long, meaningful glance, their hearts full of gratitude, awe, and a love stronger than ever. "We survived the storms," Carlin whispered. "And now we live in the light." Evan kissed her forehead gently, "And we'll keep living in it, every single day." The camera pans upward, the golden sky stretching endlessly above the Bates home. Birds fly across the horizon as the soft lullaby of Faith's breathing echoes through the scene. The first light of dawn gently spilled over the Tennessee hills. The house was quiet except for the soft cooing of Faith, now peacefully sleeping in her crib. Carlin stood at the window, holding Evan's hand. She took a deep breath, feeling the cool morning air brush against her face. "It's so peaceful," she whispered. Evan squeezed her hand gently. "It is. After everything, it finally feels like it's meant to." Carlin's eyes welled up with tears, remembering the nights of fear, the hospital halls, and the moment she thought she might not make it. "I almost gave up hope," she said softly. "But he gave me another chance." Evan rested his forehead against hers. "We were never alone, Carlin. Every step, every prayer, every tear, we were walking it together. And he was walking with us too." Carlin gently lifted Faith from her crib, holding her close. The baby's tiny hand reached for her mother's face, and Carlin felt a warmth spread through her chest, a quiet reminder of the miracle they had been given. "You're our little miracle," Carlin whispered to Faith, voice breaking. "You taught us about hope, about love, about never giving up." Evan entered, standing behind them, wrapping an arm around Carlin. "We'll always protect you, little one," he said softly. "Just like we were protected before you even arrived." Faith cooed, tiny eyes opening to meet theirs. It was a gaze full of life, trust, and the purest innocence. Carlin smiled through tears. She knows. She already knows she's loved more than anything in this world. The entire Bates family gathered once again. Kelly Jo, Gil, siblings, nieces, nephews. They all stood together surrounding Carlin, Evan, and Faith. Kelly Jo's voice was soft, emotional. "We prayed for this day. We waited for this moment. And look at her. Look at all of you." Carlin felt a lump in her throat. "I can't even describe how grateful I am. For every one of you. For Faith. For family. For life itself. Gil added quietly. It's a reminder. Sometimes the hardest storms bring the most beautiful mornings. The children gathered closer to Faith, reaching out to touch her tiny hands, laugh, and whisper little blessings. Evan looked at Carlin, his eyes glistening. All of this, it's ours. We survived the storm. And now we live in the light together. Carlin leaned against him, holding Faith tightly. I'll never forget how fragile life is, or how strong love can be. Carlin rocking Faith as Evan hummed softly, the baby's eyes slowly closing, siblings laughing and playing in the garden, the golden sunlight touching their faces. Kelly, Joe, and Gil quietly praying together, tears of gratitude in their eyes. Faith's tiny fingers curling around her parents' hands, a symbol of new beginnings, the family walking together down the yard, holding hands, laughing and soaking in the warmth of the day. The sky glowed in shades of pink, orange, and gold. The house stood quiet and peaceful, a beacon of hope, love, and faith. Carlin whispered softly, holding Faith's tiny hand. We face fear, we face pain, but now we have hope. And hope is everything. Evan pressed his lips gently to Carlin's forehead. Every tear was worth it, because it brought us here. Together. Whole. Alive. The camera slowly pans upward, capturing the family standing together on the porch, the generations of love, faith, and resilience. Carlin's voice echoes softly over the scene, filled with gratitude and awe. Miracles aren't always loud. Sometimes they arrive quietly, in the soft breaths of a newborn, in the hands that hold you when you're weak, in the hearts that never let go. Faith, hope, love, they are what remain, even after the storm. And now we begin our new life together.